Hello friends, today I'm going to discuss about nutrition in plants. So what is nutrition? The process of taking food by an organism as well as the utilization of this food by the organism is called nutrition. Why do an organism need food? An organism need food to obtain energy, to obtain materials for growth, to obtain materials for the repair of the damaged parts of the body. What is modes of nutrition? The methods of obtaining food are called modes of nutrition. The different types of modes of nutrition, that is autotrophs and heterotrophs. Autotrophs, those organisms which can make food themselves from simple substances like carbon dioxide and water by the process of photosynthesis are called autotrophs. Whereas those organisms which cannot make food themselves by the process of photosynthesis and take food from green plants or animals are called heterotrophs. Autotrophs contain green pigment called chlorophyll, which helps them to make food by absorbing energy from sunlight, whereas heterotrophs do not have green chlorophyll, hence they are dependent on other for food. Example of autotrophs are plant, maize, wheat, trees, etc. Of heterotrophs, it is non-green plants called fungi, such as mushroom, yeast, bread mold, animals, and human. Here is an example cited about the mode of nutrition. So in autotrophs, you can see the plant takes the energy from sunlight and carbon dioxide, water from the atmosphere, and in the presence of chlorophyll, it produces food and releases oxygen into the air, and this food is supplied to all parts of the plant. Whereas in heterotrophs, the herbivorous animals are dependent on plants, and the carnivorous, they are dependent on herbivores for their survivability. Now there are different types of heterotrophs like omnivorous. Animals that consume both plants and animals are called omnivorous. Herbivores. Animals that feed on plants like deer, cow, goat, buffalo, giraffe. Then carnivorous. They are the animals that consume other animals. There are two types, predator and scavengers. Predators, they kill and consume their prey, where scavengers, they are dependent on predators' prey, means they do not kill themselves. Another is saprophytes. They include the heterotrophic plants, fungi, and bacteria which feed on dead organisms, like mushrooms or saprophytes that feed on dead plants. Detritivorous. So in detritivorous, they eat soil and other very small bits of organic matter like decomposing plant and animal parts, as well as feces. Here is a pyramid showing about the dependence of heterotrophs and autotrophs. So at the bottom level you can see are the plants, which are the primary producers. They produce they are the primary producers, so they produce themselves. On them are dependent are the herbivores, and on herbivores are dependent the primary predators, and on primary predators are dependent secondary predators. Secondary predators are like lion, tiger, etc. So these are the pyramids depicting about the autotrophs and heterotrophs. Another class is there which decayed retrievers. They feed on the dead and decaying matters. Now here is the example of different types of consumers and scavengers. Here you can see herbivorous, omnivorous, and carnivorous are consumer, whereas hyena, vulture, and crow comes under scavenger. And in this figure you will see bacteria, mushroom, and more, they are saprotroph, and snail, millipede, crab are detrivore. Now, what are the other modes of nutrition in plants? They are like parasites. A plant which lives on or inside another organism and host and derives the foods from it is called parasite. The parasitic plant produces certain type of roots, they are called sucking roots, which penetrate into the host plant and they suck food. Examples of parasitic plants are cascata, wheat rust, corn smut, and mistletoe. So stem of cascata is yellow in color as it has no chlorophyll and hence cannot synthesize its own food. You can see here in the figure the cascata, which is also known as daughter. The cascata stem has developed a sucker which penetrates into the phloem of the host plant and suck the nutrients from the host plant, as a result of which the host plants are deprived of nutrients. Here in this figure you can see the coil-like structure which has entangled the plant is actually a parasite. Animal parasites are lice, bedbugs, leeches, and mosquitoes. They all suck bloods of the host plant. But in this episode, I'm not going to deal with that. Other modes of nutrition in plants are like saprophytes, those non-green plants which obtain their food from dead and digging organic matter, like dead plants and animals, are called saprophytes. They do not have chlorophyll. Examples are fungi such as mushroom, bread mold, and yeast. Now, how do they feed? They secrete digestive juices on dead and decaying organic matter and convert it into a solution. They absorb the nutrients from this solution, and this mode of nutrition is called saprophytic nutrition. Again, there are two types of fungus. One is useful and another is harmful. The mushroom which we eat as a vegetables are useful fungus. Yeast is used by producing alcohol and medicine like penicillin. So they comes on the useful fungus. Whereas harmful fungus, many harmful fungus are there which affect the standing crops and cause diseases in human. Fungus also grows on pickles, leather, clothes, which are left uncleaned in hot and humid weather. Then insectivorous plant. Those green plants which obtain their food from insect are called insectivorous plant. They are also known as carnivorous plant. So they have specialized leaves to catch the insects, and they grow in those soil which do not contain sufficient nitrogen mineral. So here is an example of this insectivorous plants. This is your sundew, this is picture plant, and this is a picture plant, this is Venus trap, this is Articularia, this is Drosera. Next, how a carnivorous picture plant trap insects. So here is a picture of a picture plant. You can see how the leaf lamina or blade of the leaf is converted into a picture-like structure, and the tips of the leaf acts as the lead of the picture. So whenever the insects get trapped inside it due to its attractive color, the insects get trapped inside it, then it cannot come out because there are so many hairs inside this picture plant which are directed towards downwards. After some time, the insect dies, and then what happens? The plant starts secreting digestive juice which digests the protein of the insects, and thereby the plant gets its nitrogen in the form of amino acids. So a carnivorous picture plant that prey upon insects by luring them into elongated tube, where the insects get trapped, die, and digested are the way by which a picture plant acts. Other mode of nutrition plant is symbiotic plants. When two different species of plant live together as if they are the parts of same parts and help each other in obtaining food is called symbiosis. And such plants are known as symbiotic plants. And the relationship is called symbiotic relationship. In this, both organisms are benefited. I am going to cite here an example of rhizobium bacteria and the leguminous plant. So rhizobium is a bacteria which live in the root nodules of the legume plants, and like pulses, gram, beans, peas, etc. So rhizobium, they convert nitrogen of the air, which is in inert form, into water soluble nitrogen compound like nitrates, and give it to leguminous plants for their growth. In turn, the leguminous plant give food and shelter to rhizobium bacteria. So this is a symbiotic relationship. So here in this figure you will see the roots of the legume plant is having so many nodules, which is facilitated by this rhizobium, and rhizobium resides here and thereby convert this nitrogen gas of air into water soluble nitrogen compounds like nitrates, and this way both are benefited. Another example is lichen and fungus. In lichen, which is an algae, the green colored plant called alga, which is autotroph in nature, and the non-green plant fungus, which is saprophyte in nature, fungus like mycorrhiza, they live together. So the fungus hold alga, that is green colored plant part cells, in its mat and web-like structure. You can see here in the figure, web like hyphae, thin filaments. This is thin filaments. The fungus absorb water and minerals, salts from the surrounding and supply to the alga. In return, alga plant being green prepares food for the photosynthesis and share with fungus. So thus both alga and fungus live in mutual relationship. So this is symbiosis. Here is a picture of lichen symbiosis. So there are mainly three types of symbiotic relationship. There is mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism. Here are a few examples of them, like plant and microbes. Example is rhizobium and root nodules. Protists and fungi. Example is lichen. Terrestrial plants and insect. Example is pollination. Animals and protists or bacteria. Example is ruminants or corals. Animals and other animals like crocodile and plover bird. Now commensalism. In this, one of the organism benefits and other neither harmed nor helped. Here is the example of clownfish. You can see here clownfish. They live in the sea anemone. This is sea anemones. And in this, the clownfish get protection from the sea anemones. And sea anemone is neither harmed nor helped. Again, another example is epiphytes and trees. Epiphytes are plants that grow on the bark of the trees. You can see here they grow on the bark of the trees, and these epiphytes get nutrients from the air and get extra sunlight by growing on the taller trees in the forest. So trees are not harmed, neither helped. So this is commensalism. Another relationship is parasitic relationship. In parasitic relationship, one is harmed and another is benefited. So I am going to discuss here about one example, that there is a class of plant hormone which is known as trigolactones. When this is added to the plants, they stimulate branching in the plants and growth of symbiotic arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi in the soil. But they also impair shoot and branching trigger and germination of parasitic plant. In this figure, you can see this is a host plant. When trigolactones is added to it, the seed also starts germinating, and then it develops hosteria, and this hosteria goes and attaches with the roots of the host plant, and this way it takes nutrition from the host plant, and after some time it emerges flowering shoots, and the parasitic produces a large number of seeds which remain viable for many years in the soil. Now, the summary of symbiosis. So, we have studied that there are three types of symbiosis: commensalism, parasitism, and mutualism. So, in commensalism, one is benefited, the next is neither benefited nor harmed. Parasitism, one is benefit, other is harm. In mutualism, both are benefited. Now, how nutrients are replenished in the soil? The main nutrients required by plants are nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Due to repeated growing of plants in the soil becomes deficient in this mineral. So, the plant nutrients need to be added frequently to enrich the soil and restore its fertility. So, there are basically two ways by which this can be done: by adding fertilizers and manures, and by growing leguminous crops. So, by fertilizers and manure, the two most common fertilizers used in the fields are NPK and urea. NPK provides nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium to the soil in the fields, whereas urea provides only nitrogen. Note, of all the nutrients, the crop plants grown in the field require nitrogen in the maximum amount to make protein. Now, by leguminous crops, plants need nitrogen in the form of water-soluble compounds such as nitrates. So plants such as gram, chana, which is known as chana, peas, pulses, moong, etc., and beans are leguminous plants, and they have root nodules containing rhizobium bacteria. So they help in fixing this atmospheric nitrogen into the soil. So rhizobium bacteria, they convert nitrogen gas from air into nitrogen compounds, and some of these nitrogenous compounds are used by the leguminous plant for their growth, and remaining get mixed with the soil and enrich it. So why plant needs nitrogen? Nitrogen is so vital because it is a major component of chlorophyll, the compound which plants use sunlight energy to produce sugars from water and carbon dioxide, that is photosynthesis. It is also a major component of amino acid, which is the building blocks of protein. So that's why we need, or plants need, nitrogen. So nitrogen can be given through by fertilizer, artificial means, or by your legume crops when grown in along with the host plant. So what happens? that in the soil there is organic nitrogen is contributed by 98% nitrogen in the soil by the microorganisms. So this mineral nitrogen, that is nitrate and ammonia, they are around 2% nitrogen in the soil. So what happened? A small portion of the organic nitrogen is taken by the plant and rest it get mixed in the soil. And through mineralization, microorganisms convert this nitrogen to mineral nitrogen, which is really taken up by the plants. And few of them get leaches from the root zone into the waterways. So here is a picture showing the nitrogen, about the nitrogen cycle. So we know that plants need nitrogen to grow, but nitrogen present in the atmosphere, which is around 78%, is inert and hence can't be absorbed by the plant as it is in insoluble form. So when nitrogen is combined in nature as nitric oxide by the help of your lightning and ultraviolet rays and supplies it to the soil. But maximum amount, that is more than 90% of the nitrogen, are fixed by microorganisms like and to the ammonia, nitrates and nitrates by the soil microorganisms. So there are two kinds of nitrogen fixing microorganisms like symbiotic and non-symbiotic association. So here in the picture you can see how the atmospheric nitrogen, with the help of nitrogen fixing bacteria, it gets converted to ammonia, and from ammonia to ammonium from the soil, and then this ammonium is absorbed by the plants, and with the help of nitrifying bacteria it also gets converted to nitrate, which is also absorbed by the plant, and this nitrate by denitrifying bacteria it again produces your N2, which goes back to again to the atmosphere, and this cycle is repeated. So now what is nitrification and denitrification? The biological process where ammonium is oxidized and converted into nitrate is called nitrification, while denitrification is biological process which involves the conversion of nitrate to the nitrogen gas. So denitrifying bacteria, it results in the conversion of nitrate in the soil to free atmospheric nitrogen, thus depleting soil fertility and reducing agricultural productivity. So like example are Pseudomonas, Achromobacter and Micrococcus. Whereas nitrifying bacteria, they convert soil ammonia to nitrates, compounds usable by plants like Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter. So why nitrogen is so important? Nitrogen is a naturally occurring element that is essential for growth and reproduction in plants and animals. It is found in amino acids that make us protein, which is the building blocks, and in nucleic acid that comprise the hereditary material, and its life's blueprint for all cells in many other organic and inorganic compounds. It is present in DNA, RNA, genes, chromosomes, enzymes, chlorophyll, secondary metabolites, etc. What is its role? Nitrogen is an important part of our body. Amino acids all contain nitrogen, and they are the building blocks that make up the proteins in your hair, muscles, skin, and other important tissue. We cannot survive without nitrogen. In our diet, we get it from protein. Where do nitrogen in soil come from? Nutrients get into soil by many different ways, from decomposed animal waste, from dead plants, from atmosphere, weathering of rocks, bacteria conversion. So when soils are used to grow foods, the soils needs to be kept healthy, as a lot of nutrients are taken up by plants and not replaced. Can plant grow without nutrients? No, plant cannot grow without nutrients, because nutrients are needed for growth, metabolic functioning, and completion of its life cycle. Plants take in carbon and oxygen air from their leaves and nutrients from soil, and other important nutrients are calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. Do plants absorb nutrients at night? Yes, regardless of light being present or not, plants take nutrients from the at night. So, thank you.